Welcome to Dentology, the Business of Dentistry podcast. In this podcast, we delve into the non-clinical aspects of dentistry with inspirational guests from across the profession. You will hear incredible life stories, pick up valuable business tips and be entertained. I'm Andy Acton and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Strevens.
So, Mr. A,
Uh-huh.
when's the best time to go?
What? We've only been talking for 10 seconds.
Boom, boom. Best time to sell. Best time to exit my dental practice. I think that would be, if you did, what's that TV show? Was it Family Fortunes, where the top 5 answers?
Yeah.
Someone goes, I would think that is probably in my top 5 that someone says at a show or on the phone or in an email somewhere that says, when's the right time to go? Is there a right time?
I think the right time is dependent on how you feel and the right answer for you. I don't think it's age-based. I think for me, my answer.
There's not one rule fits all.
No, I think my answer always falls into three areas. One, why you're still enjoying it, because
makes sense.
We're not here for that long. So if you're not enjoying it, have a good think about that. Second,
so your performance suffers.
Yeah. I think the second thing is why you're healthy, because again, continuing to do something when you don't feel great, it's a bit like enjoying it. That's rubbish. And the third thing is why your numbers look good, because the amount of people we see who actually retired 5 years before they told anybody.
That's so sad.
So their numbers have just dropped off. They've got older. They've got disenfranchised with only a practice, their love for their team, their love for their patients, everything just feels tired. You see it in the numbers, and it's horrible.
I think it's the saddest thing actually when that happens.
Yeah.
Because they sort of, as you say, they've fallen out of love with it.
Yeah.
And they'd be better off they sold it 5 years ago and stayed as an associate.
And I think the real crying shame is for me as a non-clinician, I'm in awe of the impact that a dentist has on someone's confidence, health, their well-being. So to see dentists at the end of their career who fall out in love with it is a shame. So it's like, for me, it's kind of make sure you're still enjoying it, make sure you're healthy, and make sure your numbers look good. Because the last part is don't try and time the market, because you can't. I think probably one of the best examples of that in recent times is lots of people decided to invest heavily in crypto. And I think it was around about £60,000 per Bitcoin and rapidly fell to about £20,000 or went below that. So those people, you try to time the market. There's other factors at play, and when you bring it down to dental practices, you've got the obvious supply and demand, but who saw Brexit coming? Who saw the war in Ukraine? Inflation went up. Everyone went, don't worry, inflation's going to come down really quickly, and it came down a bit. And then it sort of stopped where it was. So that means that interest rates have gone up and everybody thought they were going to stop, but they've gone up again. Trying to time the market is a fool's game. You can't do that. But what you can control are the controllables. So you can control
what you can do,
control, are you enjoying it? You know on a daily basis. And if you have a bad day, that's not a reason to sell.
No, that's a bad day.
But if you have a bad 3 months, then you might want to start talking to somebody about it and understand why. Your health, we all know how we feel. If we feel healthy, we've got the energy, we're enjoying it, great, keep going. Again, if you have a day where you just feel a bit achy, you might have just got out of bed on the wrong side. You might be a bit cranky on that day. But again, ongoing, if your health isn't good, we've seen people where their health deteriorated and it's resulted in no longer being able to work in the practice. The 1, stressful, 2, kills the profit in the practice. It's horrible. It's horrible.
And it is a tricky one, isn't it? Because you said there's no golden rule. And I suppose that in a way, unless you have to, the answer is don't expect to sell and be retired on the beach in 4 weeks' time.
No.
Because it's not going to happen. You've got to give yourself a running.
And that's the other thing on timing it. It's I guess my first answer was kind of around the big stuff. Do it when you enjoy it, healthy. Your numbers are looking good. But I think you're right. I think you also need to kind of get down to a smaller level and manage it in. And the reality is, and there's lots of different reasons for it, but selling a dental practice can take up to about 12 months. So from talking to somebody today, it could be 9-12 months before they actually leave the practice. And that needs to be factored in, because psychologically, we don't have many processes that take that long. Buying a house, probably 3 or 4 months. Buying a car might take you a week. Buying a Mars bar, 20 seconds. There aren't many things that kind of fall into the nearly a year for it to happen. So you need resilience. So you need to really dig in. And the longer you can accept and the sooner you can accept that it's going to be a long process, the better, because it's also important as you go through that process that you really stay on your top game, because the person isn't buying your business as of today, they're buying it as of when they take it over. So during that intervening period, that going back to the time in your sale, do it when you still feel you've got the energy to run for that last year and have an enjoyable last year of ownership as well, as opposed to it being bitter and disgruntled. It happens though, doesn't it?
And I suppose we've seen it, haven't we? Where we were saying the guys who've retired 5 years ago, but I think one of the other ones is when a guy or lady sells their dental practice, gets it under offer, goes into legals, and then they sort of switch off, don't they? They think, oh, I've sold it, and therefore they spend, I don't know, they just downgrade themselves almost and unwind. And regrettably, when it comes for possibly a bank valuation, one of the things they will look at is your current fee generation. And the risk is you sort of almost shoot yourself in the foot because you sort of chilled out and relaxed a bit. And I think, well, we do, don't we? Just say to people, keep running it as you would run it until it's not yours anymore. Yeah. Because the danger is you will have retired because you've got a holding deposit. Yeah. Whereas in reality, you haven't, because you've still got to keep going and keep pushing on because they want to buy that. And I think the other interesting thing is that one of the questions I always ask people, they say, oh, I want to sell my practice, I want to stop by, in 12 months. And the answer is that stop being a dentist in 12 months, or is that stop running a practice in 12 months? And I think a lot of them don't realise they might have the opportunity of staying on. Yeah. Because I think we've noticed, haven't we, over the years that sellers have got sellers have got younger, and it's mainly they hate running a business. They sort of have done 10, 15, 20 years and can't be bothered with CQC.
I think for lots of practice owners, I mean, we're fortunate we're in business together, we've got other business partners, but I think as a sole principle, there seems to be a window around about 10 to 12 years where business owners just suffer fatigue. They still love patients and the clinical work, but just that dripping tap of owning and running a business just becomes a bit overwhelming.
Regulation,
managing people and
responsibility.
That.
Some people love it.
Oh, yeah. And I think the last thing I'd say on timing your sale as well is that if you're going to make any changes to your practice, do them in good time. So don't make changes like going, adding on a surgery or introducing new services and then putting it to the market, because what a buyer's really looking for is the consistency and the stability of what happens in that practice. And if you make changes and those changes don't have time to filter through to the financial accounts and your income, you're probably not going to get rewarded for. If anything, it might destabilize your practice. So if you are in a situation where you're looking sort of 3 to 5 years out, have a conversation with somebody and find out what is the impact of those changes, because that may influence the timing of your sale. Because if your sale, you want to sell within the next year, it might not be worth making those changes. If you've got a 3 to 5 year horizon, then it would be worth making those changes. But it's always a shame when we talk to people who have just kind of, refurbished the surgery, put in a lovely new chair package, a new cabinetry.
But not getting much for it.
And they did it 3 months before they decided to sell. And the reality is that's hard to get a return on it. Yeah. So any changes you're thinking of, make sure you kind of talk to somebody before doing that, just to make sure you're going to get a return.
I'll tell you what that also brought to mind was the guys who have a good year.
The good year sale.
When they look at it and, you've done, I don't know, 400, 420, 600. Yeah. And then, why can't I get it valued? Well, the answer is you had a good year, because your last 12 months now are down at 450 again. Yeah. And everybody spots a good year
Yeah.
And the way to look at
There has to be a joke in there about tyres, doesn't there? There's got to be a tyre analogy about the good year, isn't there?
Well, you got to keep on track. Would that be good? You have to keep treading the boards. I don't know, whatever. Or big rubber. I don't quite know how that comes into it. But it's an interesting one, is it? Because people otherwise they spot it and they know, and then they're really worried that there isn't any dentistry to do because you've done every bit of dentistry on all your patients. Because in reality, maintenance of patients is good, but it's actually new treatments on patients, on new patients, that is the lifeblood of your business.
And if people are in doubt, they can always get an impact valuation, can't they? You know,
yeah, it's true.
You can get an impact valuation that kind of gives somebody a position in terms of where they are now,
see what it looks like,
what it's going to look like in 3 to 5 years if you made those changes, and that might help inform people as to whether they're going to make those changes or not. But I just go back to that thing: do it when you're having fun, do it while you're healthy, and do it while the numbers look good. Don't try and second guess the market because it's outside of your control. I think if you stick to those things as an individual, you won't go far off track.
And it's a bit like, I suppose, isn't it? I think it's that, for me, it's those people who say, my house was worth 3 million quid. Now it's only worth 2.5 million or whatever it might be. But the answer is, it might have had that value, but it really wasn't any value to you because you didn't sell it. So there's no point bemoaning what might have been because you can only be in the day you are.
Well, I was 26, 25 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's
I'm not anymore.
That's what I was about to say, something about that. The story of there was almost a car crash. There's almost a car crash every day. In fact, when I drive home, there's almost a car crash, but there isn't one.
Yeah,
and I think you got to be careful that where you sort of map your future, because you need to plan where you are today, if that makes sense. With your exit, you sort of can't. It doesn't happen overnight.
No,
you need to give yourself, if you can, a good run up.
Yeah,
because then you will maximise value.
Yeah, and I think increasingly people are getting better at planning their exit, and we can help. There's loads of people out there that can help people put in place a system and a structure so they get the best exit possible. That's what everybody wants. Yeah,
from both value and ease of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dentology, where we discuss the business of dentistry. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe where you found this episode. That would be amazing. And also follow us on Instagram.